Millennials, Gen Z, during this SHTF moment are royally screwed. Something, if you're watching this video and you click this video, I want you to really think for a moment. How many young people do you see making prepping channels? How many of these people do you think there are in their 20s or below? 30s. They're typically in their 30s, 40s, 50s, or beyond. A lot older. And obviously, it tends to be, I think, because of how our brains have developed. Probably because not enough young people have their brains developed. My brain's probably not even fully developed either, because it's something like 25, 27. But a lot of these older people have a lot more developed brains and have not only the risk, they have the risk of, like, if things happen, it's not only just going to affect them, it's going to affect their family, it's going to affect their assets, it's going to affect their business that they're trying to pass down to their great-great-grandchildren. It's going to affect multiple people. I think it has to do, one, with the technology and the fact that we're literally destroying our attention span. So whenever it comes to, let's say, for example, food shortages, or we're talking about, hey, geopolitical tensions, a lot of people, their attention span, and they're basically, this young generation is full of dopamine junkies. And I'm not trying to say I'm perfect. Obviously, I'm still a part of it. But when it really gets serious, all of that stuff is going to be irrelevant. When we get into it, like when 2008 hit, I was young. I didn't know what was going on. All I knew was it was hard times. But now that this generation that was young during these financial crises is a little bit older, it's like we're just just clueless. It's like our brains are still children, and it's even like some grown people have a childish brain when it comes to this. They think, oh, the government, they'll just flip a switch and it'll disappear. The economy is booming. How can people be this delusional? And I think it has to do with the way our technology is right now. And I think a large part, and due to the fact that we're essentially the indoor generation with, technological devices that literally are catered to making our brain addicted to short, quick, dopamine hits that fit our bias. And we can never intellectually grow because we're constantly being stuck in this loop of information. And anytime this information isn't Mr. Beast, or it isn't, Call of Duty, or it isn't Netflix, and it isn't, that funny, cute girl on TikTok. And I'm not saying those things are fundamentally bad, but a lot of people are getting caught up in this loop. And the amount of people that don't understand that the bread and circuses, the gladiator fights, are tools to make sure that you're so dumbed down and distracted while you're having fun, you have no clue that the government is devaluing your currency. So you're in there and throwing your money at these gladiators. Oh, you got to throw some women in there. Then you got to throw some lions in there. Then you got to throw some slaves in there. It just has to keep getting more and more mentally enticing to keep you sucked in. And then, bam, whole civilization collapses. And I'm not saying that's necessarily what's going to happen, but these cyclical periods of economic hardship, a lot of people are going to look back and be like, dang, I spent all this time on Netflix. Dang. And some people are going to be like, maybe I should have spent more time doing it because it was so bad. But I think that's, a bad mindset to have. I think you should have had a preventative mindset. I think having a preventative mindset during this time is going to save so many people's lives. Genuinely. Like, I'm talking about preventing people from going hungry. I'm talking about preventing people from losing their home. So obviously, if we're talking about Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, compared to you losing your home in 6 months and you getting laid off and you got 6 children and you're worried about Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, you're looking at, what's going on in the NBA Finals. I mean, look, I'm not saying you cannot have fun, but it's like, look, the conditions of our world are not stagnant. One of the only guarantees, one of the only certainties in this existence and this reality we have is change. So whatever good time you think there is, or a peaceful time, is going to change. And even if things do hit the fan, they will eventually change. But it's about preparing for these things, taking rational and logical action, and thinking about it the most preventative in the most preventative manner to make sure that the people around you and you don't have to go through it. But a lot of people think it's like, oh, it's fear based, or oh, you're worrying, bro. What are you gonna do about it? I'm going to take preventative action so I don't have to suffer. But it's so annoying looking at grown adults, grown men and women who can't see this. And yet it's the grown men and women who are going to suffer the most, and it's the younger generation who are going to have such a stunted growth and such a stunted future because of their lack of ability to be able to, engage the part of their brain that is going to prevent them from suffering from minor or long-term or massive threats. And we're looking at a massive shift in the global order. The new world order literally is essentially what we're possibly looking at with what's going on in Ukraine and Russia. And it sounds so crazy if you've been on an autopilot for years. If you've been on autopilot for years, this sounds ridiculous. But if you snapped out of autopilot, this makes perfect sense to you because you've been looking at what's going on around the world, and you've not just been essentially this machine who's being fed information and just told what to do on a constant loop every single day. And that's how they get us. They get us to be these robots, essentially. And it's not even like in a derogatory term like bots versus woke people. Like, genuinely being on autopilot in terms of your thought process and your ability to deviate and step outside and to be creative. And those type of people, those free thinkers, those types of people are going to be very, very important in an shtf scenario. Those people are going to be the future, whether young or old. That is the future, that type of thought, because we've reached a point where this robot slave mentality, not in a derogatory term, it's beneficial in certain senses to build a society, but at this point in time, it's now it's a detriment in terms of this cyclical pause of the economy in our society. It's now at the point where it's going to lead to most people just being completely, utterly destroyed financially and, in terms of their longevity.